Hey guys. Tonight we're heading way back in time. Somewhere around 3.000 BCE. Give or take a century or two, to the dusty cradle of civilization, ancient Mesopotamia. You're not a king, a priest, or a merchant. Nope, you're just a humble farmer. And this is your life. The air is still black with night. And already your neighbor's goats are making that annoying snorting noise again. You blink awake on a mat of woven reeds. Your back hurts. Because of course it does. No pillows. No memory foam. Just a layer of compacted straw and possibly a lizard or two. You squint toward the doorway. Just a cloth flap. Really, and you know what time it is. Not clock time. Sun not up yet, but you gotta move time. You fumble in the dim light and step outside into the soft hush of pre-dawn. The dirt under your feet is cool. Almost pleasant. You take a breath, dry. Earthy. Tinged with distant smoke and something that might be manure. Probably is. You head toward the livestock pen. Goats. Always goats. Bleating like the world's falling apart. You check for the one that likes to escape. He's glaring at you. Like you're the problem. You pass your wife on the way back. She's already grinding barley in a stone mortar. You nod. She grunts. That's as close to, good morning, as either of you is gonna get before sunrise. You're not exactly a morning person. Then again, no one is when the first thing you do is clean animal waste before breakfast. The ritual begins. Feeding the goats. Checking the thatch on the chicken coop, badly frayed again. And hoping your one duck hasn't wandered into the canal. Again. There's a smell coming from the neighbor's yard, smoke and early bread. You sigh. That guy always gets his baking done early so he can gloat about it at the canal later. You, meanwhile, are still figuring out if your sandals are even the same size. You walk back into the house, stone, mud brick, and that one spot in the corner that always leaks when it rains. You crouch beside the hearth. A simple clay-lined pit with glowing coals from last night's fire. You add more fuel, dried reeds and old animal dung patties. Delightful. Yes, but practical. It burns hot and long. You glance at the household shrine. A tiny shelf with tiny clay statues. UTU. The sun god. Mostly. Maybe a little figurine of Ninkasi, the beer goddess, because you're not above a tiny prayer for happy fermentation. You murmur a few words. Nothing fancy. Just a plea for rain, health, and fewer blisters. As the fire crackles, your wife drops a fistful of crushed dates into a pot with barley paste. The smell is decent. Better than yesterday. Anyway, you tear off a hunk of flatbread from yesterday's bake. It's dry and a bit chewy. But it'll do. You dip it, chew slowly, and think about the work ahead. Historians still argue whether Mesopotamian farmers practiced more communal farming or strictly family-owned plots. Either way, one thing's for sure. Nobody's farming for fun out here. The kids start to stir. You hear one of them yelling because someone stepped on his sleeping mat. Again, you ignore it. There's a pecking order in large families. And the youngest learns early. Don't sleep near the doorway. There's a lull in sound. The quiet right before the sun breaks. You step outside, lift your face, and wait for that sliver of gold to appear above the reed huts and date palms. The light creeps in slowly, brushing everything with a soft, dusty glow. It's beautiful, and, of course, It means it's time to get moving. You shoulder a worn satchel, grab your bronze-headed hoe, and mutter goodbye. Your wife grunts again, already wrapping lentils in leaves for your midday meal. She's efficient like that. You both know the day ahead will be long. As you trudge down the path between houses, chickens scatter. A neighbor waves, half asleep, holding a squawking duck by the neck. You nod. Just another normal morning in the land between two rivers. Oh, and remember that cheeky reality check? Yeah, you probably won't survive this life. Not because of war or drama. Just life expectancy. Broken bones, rotten teeth, snake bites, or that time your cousin ate spoiled fish and thought he could sweat it out. Spoiler: he could not. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, where are you listening from? Drop your city and local time in the comments. Always love seeing who's drifting off where. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk toward the fields. The sky is pale now. Soft pink streaks over layers of smoke and sand. It's going to be hot. You squint toward the irrigation canals, still trickling. Thank the gods, and take one last slow breath before the work begins. The plow waits. So does the ox. And that's where we'll pick up next. You shuffle back into the house just long enough to grab your morning bundle. A coil of old rope. A curved blade that's seen better days. And one half-cracked water jug. This isn't your gear for the field, not yet. First, it's time for the sacred ritual of not fainting from dehydration before noon. The fire has reduced to glowing embers. Your wife is already kneading barley dough for the mid-morning cakes. Elbow deep in flour, humming what might be a hymn or might be a complaint. Hard to tell. The baby is tied snug against her hip with a sash. It's swaying rhythmically, either asleep or plotting a new way to bite someone. There's a quiet reverence in this part of the morning. Even the goats stop yapping. The air is still cool. You can hear the soft hiss of ash as she dusts it over the flat cooking stones, her way of keeping them from sticking. She spoons thick barley paste and date pulp into thin patties and slaps them down on the warm stone. A sizzle, a puff of steam. The smell is sweet and nutty. You crouch beside her and reach for a warm patty. But she slaps your hand. Not yet. The gods eat first. You rise and walk to the house shrine again. It's small but tidy. Utu in the middle. Ananad to the left. And Dumuzid, her extremely part-time husband, on the right. You mutter a quick prayer under your breath. Break off a small piece of bread. And place it neatly on the offering shelf. A smear of honey, too. The bees didn't sting you that much yesterday. You bow your head. The ritual matters, not just for piety, but for luck. Everyone knows the neighbor who stopped making offerings last harvest and got worms in all his lentils. Coincidence? Maybe. But Mesopotamian logic says, why risk it? Historians still argue whether these domestic offerings were private acts of devotion or just cultural habits passed down from temple traditions. Either way, nobody skips them, not unless they enjoy famine and goat theft. Back by the hearth, your wife tosses you a patty. Burned on one side, you don't complain. She's still aiming for that crisp edge. You take a bite. It's chewy, filling, vaguely sweet, honestly not bad. especially compared to the dried onion soup from 2 nights ago that tasted like regret and river mud. Your oldest son comes in, barefoot and yawning. He's nearly old enough to be sold as an apprentice in the city. But for now, he's your shadow. You tell him to get the small basket, not the big one unless he plans to carry it himself this time. The two of you step outside. You squint into the rising light. Across the street, someone's already chasing a runaway goat. Again, the same goat. In fact, you're starting to think he does it for attention. The path to the canal is dry and cracked. Your feet kick up dust with each step. It coats your ankles, sneaks into your sandals. The smell of wet clay hangs in the air. It's not unpleasant. Just earthy, alive. A cluster of neighbors gathers at the canal's edge. Some are hauling up buckets. Others washing their arms or arguing about fishing rights. One kid is just poking the water with a stick, determined to annoy everyone. You wait your turn. The canal's level is decent today. Not as low as last week. That's a small miracle. You dip your jug and watch as the water fills. Muddy and warm but precious. You also catch a whiff of something suspiciously fishy. Either a dead carp or someone doing laundry too close to the drainage outlet again. You glance down at the little gods carved into the rim of your jug. They're crude but comforting, tiny UTU faces. Sun rays etched with a stick. The jug has been in your family for at least 5 years. That's basically ancient. A neighbor sidles up beside you. It's Ishtar Bani, the woman with too many chickens and not enough volume control. She starts talking about her cousin's wedding, which apparently involved 4 donkeys, 1 runaway groom, and a severely undercooked leg of lamb. You nod politely, then steer the conversation to the canal's flow. She snorts. Better than last week, unless the gods get mad again. Or unless Tamu forgets to unclog the reed gate. Ah yes, Tamu, the village's least competent canal keeper. Last month he fell into the irrigation ditch and blamed a dirt spirit. You try not to laugh. But your son hears the name and giggles. You pass the full jug to him, slowly, carefully, and it's only slightly leaking. You make your way back toward home, feeling the morning heat already prickling on your neck. You can hear a pair of temple boys in the distance, chanting something about the goddess of grain. You don't catch the whole hymn, but the melody is nice. As you step into your yard, you pause to pour a trickle of water onto the dusty ground. Not for the plants, for the spirits, just a sip for them. Everyone knows it's bad luck to carry full jugs into the house without sharing first. Inside, the hearth has cooled. Your wife's tying her headscarf. The kids are bickering over whose turn it is to fetch firewood. You take one last gulp of warm water and wipe your hands on your tunic. The real day is about to begin. You grab the field tools, the heavy ones now, and sigh. Out the door again, past the duck, past the staring goat, into the wild expanse of farmland just beyond the reed fence. And tomorrow, you'll do it all again. But first, time to find out if the ox is in a helpful mood or planning sabotage. The fields lie ahead, still damp with dew and lined by narrow ridges that guide the water like lazy veins. You trudge toward them with your son, your hoe slung across your shoulder and a prayer forming quietly in your head, something like, "Please let the ox behave today." You reach the paddock where the animal is tethered. The ox eyes you with the mild disdain of someone who knows he outweighs you by several hundred pounds. His name is something short and practical. Like, Big Back, but lately you've just been calling him, you little monster. You approach slowly. Your son hangs back, clearly not interested in becoming collateral damage in another round of livestock passive aggression. The ox snorts. You snort back. It's a thing you do. Today, mercifully, he seems indifferent. You untie him, offer a scrap of barley cake, and fasten the plow yoke across his shoulders. The old wood creaks, and the leather straps are fraying. But it all holds, for now. You give your son a nod. Time to move. You guide the plow into the first furrow. It cuts the soil in satisfying curls, releasing that rich, loamy smell that tells you maybe, just maybe, this season won't be a complete disaster. The ox lumbers forward, occasionally trying to veer sideways, probably in pursuit of a beetle or personal vendetta. You correct him with a grunt and a tug on the harness. The ground here is forgiving. Silt from last month's river swell left a soft blanket behind. That's the beauty of living in Mesopotamia. The rivers flood. They destroy your stuff, and then they give you the most fertile soil in the world. Blessing or curse? Historians still argue whether Mesopotamian farmers truly depended on predictable flooding or if they were constantly playing weather roulette. Behind you, your son gathers rocks and leftover stubble from the previous harvest. It's his least favorite chore. Mostly because he insists every rock is a beetle egg and wants to yell about it. You remind him that beetles are not. If he doesn't do his part, you'll make him clean the goat pen. That shuts him up. Around mid-morning, you pause to check the sky. Clear. No vultures circling, yet. That's a good sign. The distant outline of the ziggurat shimmers on the horizon, stacked like a giant clay birthday cake dedicated to the gods. You think of the temple workers, fussing with incense and scrolls, and suppress a small, envious sigh. They don't smell like ox sweat by breakfast. As you guide the plow onward, your mind drifts. You remember when your neighbor tried to use 2 oxen at once and forgot to tie their leads together. The animals ran in opposite directions, snapping the yoke and turning his whole plot into a muddy triangle. For days afterward, the village kids called it the field of eternal confusion. There's a rhythm to this work. Step, pull, press, turn. The plow squeaks in protest but holds. Your hands are already blistering in familiar places. You ignore it. That's just farming for you. Blisters, sweat, and the constant feeling that your ox is judging you. You pause at the end of the row and wipe your brow. Your son's sitting on a flat rock, nibbling a chunk of dried fig and offering none. You steal it. He yelps. You tell him it's a tax. He rolls his eyes, an ancient tradition passed down from parent to child. Suddenly, there's a soft rustling sound from the canal embankment. You freeze. The ox freezes. Your son immediately hides behind you. Because that's what sons do. A pig trots out from the reeds, snorting and sniffing the ground. Not wild, but not yours. You think it might belong to Ishtar Bani. She lets them wander, says it's good luck. You say it's a mess. The pig ignores all of you and flops directly into the canal with a loud splash. Your son bursts into laughter. The ox snorts. You sigh. Back to work. You begin the second row, turning the soil in long furrows. Careful not to disturb the reed barriers that line the edge. Those flimsy fences aren't there for decoration. They help keep the irrigation water from flooding everything when the sluices open. Or at least, they should, unless Tamu forgets again. You hear shouting from far off. A woman yelling at someone to bring back the basket she just washed. Village life is never quiet. You keep your eyes on the plow. One step at a time. You remind yourself why you do this: food, family, survival, and the occasional barley beer on festival days. Somewhere in your head, you start composing a prayer, not to the gods exactly, but to your aching lower back. You promise to build a new plow yoke next week. You promise to oil the harness. You promise to stop calling the ox names. None of these promises will be kept, of course. The work continues, steady and exhausting, but there's a rhythm to it. A kind of meditative drudgery that lets your thoughts drift. You remember last year's flood. The one that took your neighbor's toolshed but also flushed out 2 massive carp into his irrigation basin. He had fish for a week. It was disgusting and glorious. You finish another furrow and give the ox a break. He immediately starts licking the side of your water jug. You let him. He's earned it. You sit on a stone under a half-dead tree and glance at your palms. Cracked, dirty, proud. The sun is climbing now. You can feel the heat rising off the soil like breath. And as you stare out over the patchwork of brown and green, you realize something simple and profound. This is your entire world. And right now, it's exactly where you need to be. As the sun rises higher, you pause for a moment to check your clothing, a surprisingly important decision each day. Even in a place where resources are scarce, you tug at the coarse goat wool kilt wrapped around your waist. Noticing a small tear near the hem. The linen wrap your wife made last year would be cooler. But it's still soaking from yesterday's wash. And frankly, you're not ready to deal with the awkward unraveling halfway through a hard day's work. You glance skyward. A clear blue day demands something light and breathable. The heat is already creeping in, and you'll want to avoid the midday sun burning down on your neck and shoulders. But the wool's tough enough to keep the bites and scratches from thorny reeds at bay. Practicality wins over comfort again. You roll the wool around your waist more tightly and tie the string at your hip. The fibers prickling slightly against your skin. Your sandals feel familiar but unforgiving, mud-caked and worn thin at the heels. You swear the soles are thinner than a reed stalk. But these are the same ones you've had since the last harvest. You debate whether it's time to ask your son for a new pair. Or if you should just pretend the blistered feet are battle scars. He'd probably laugh at you anyway. Nearby, your wife emerges from the house, already carrying a bundle of linen. "Wear this at noon," she says matter-of-factly, handing you the wrap. At least it breathes. You nod, grateful for the small mercy, even if you suspect you'll be sweating through it in less than an hour. Fashion in the village isn't just about comfort, it's a statement of status, family, and, sometimes, stubbornness. The type of cloth you wear can indicate everything from your profession to your social standing. Linen is prized for its coolness and fineness. But goat wool is durable and practical, making it the farmer's choice. Occasionally, you see a trader in fancy fringed robes and brightly dyed fabrics. But that's a world apart from your dusty fields. Historians still argue whether most Mesopotamian farmers had access to dyed cloth or if natural colors dominated village life. Some say dyes were rare and expensive. reserved for temples and royalty. Others believe villagers traded and recycled colors in a lively, if humble, fashion scene. You adjust your wrap and head toward the water trough to splash some water on your face. The coolness is brief but welcome against the early heat prickling your skin. You breathe deeply and listen to the low hum of activity around you, chickens clucking, oxen grunting, distant voices bargaining at the market. The fields stretch ahead like a patchwork quilt: barley, wheat, lentils, and the stubborn reeds that grow wild near the canals. The steady breeze carries the scent of fresh earth, mingled with the sweet aroma of wildflowers and the unmistakable hint of drying manure. You pull on your leather gloves, frayed at the fingers but still sturdy. They'll protect your hands from blisters and thorns, if only barely. As you step into the field, the soft crunch of dried stalks underfoot reminds you of last season's harvest. The ground is cracked but promising. Your son brings over the basket, now full of seeds for planting. You carefully scatter the grains in shallow furrows, whispering a quiet hope for a good yield. The ancient gods may be far away, but their blessings feel real in these moments. Between planting rows, you stop to check the irrigation canals. The water trickles steadily, fed by the Euphrates, winding its way through wooden sluices and reed barriers. Keeping the canals clear is a constant challenge, requiring not just muscle but cooperation. The village elders take turns overseeing water distribution, and disputes over who gets the first share are common. You're on friendly terms with most neighbors, but that doesn't mean the peace always lasts. You notice a couple of stray goats eyeing your freshly planted patch, potential troublemakers. You shoo them off with a wave and a muttered curse, hoping they don't return before the barley sprouts. The midday sun climbs steadily, and you feel sweat trickle down your spine. Time to swap out that goat wool for linen. As your wife suggested, you retreat to a shady spot beneath a date palm, peel off your outer garment, and wrap the cool linen around your waist. The fabric feels like a small luxury, billowing softly in the warm breeze. You pause for a moment to catch your breath, watching the shimmering heat waves rise from the soil. It's hard to believe this unforgiving landscape is home. But it is. Your home. You run your hands over the worn plow handle and glance at the ox patiently waiting nearby. Despite his stubbornness, he's your lifeline in this world of dust and sun. Today's work will be long, and the sun merciless, but you press on, comforted by routine and the quiet hope that this season's harvest will be better than the last. You grip the worn wooden handle of your plow and approach your reluctant partner for the day, the ox. Big and stubborn, the beast watches you with slow, deliberate eyes, as if calculating whether you're worth the trouble. You can almost hear him thinking, "Why do I put up with this human again?" The leather yoke rests heavy across his broad shoulders, aged and frayed from years of service. Securing the plow harness is a delicate dance, equal parts patience and quiet command. The ox shifts his weight, snorting softly, making you suspect he's planning some sort of rebellion involving a mud bath. You tighten the straps and whisper a few soothing words, though you're not sure if they're for the ox or yourself. Historians still argue whether Mesopotamian farmers relied mostly on oxen for plowing or if donkeys and human labor were more common in some regions. Either way, the ox is king in this field. And today he seems mildly cooperative. That's a win. You take a deep breath and press the blade of the plow into the soft soil. It's just moist enough after last night's irrigation. The earth cool beneath your feet, smelling of mud and distant river reeds. The plow cuts through the dirt, turning it over in thick curls, releasing that familiar scent of rich loam. The ox moves forward with a steady grunt, sometimes slowing to sniff the air or swat away a persistent fly. You murmur encouragements, not sure if he understands words but guessing the tone. There's a rhythm to the work: step, guide, adjust. The ox's hooves sink slightly into the earth, leaving neat tracks. Behind you, your son tries his best to keep pace, hauling a basket of seeds and occasionally chasing off a particularly bold beetle. He stops suddenly, pointing out a strange insect crawling across a leaf. "Look, father, it's the scarab." You nod. Those shiny bugs are considered sacred symbols by some, though most villagers just find them annoying. As you work, the sun climbs higher, warming your back, sweat beads on your forehead, mixing with the dust on your skin. The leather straps chafe against your arms. But you ignore it. This is life. Gritty, demanding, but strangely satisfying. You remember the story your grandfather told you about the time the ox went rogue during planting season. It kicked over the neighbor's seed basket and then took a nap in the mud. The entire village had to help replant. You grin to yourself, hoping your ox won't repeat history. Nearby, the faint sound of chanting drifts from the temple. Farmers often recite prayers or sing to the gods while working, believing it brings good fortune and protects their crops from pests and bad weather. You hum a few lines under your breath, half remembering the words, mostly making them up. Occasionally, you glance at the canal, checking the water levels. The irrigation system is the lifeblood of these fields, channeling the river's generosity across the dry land. Without it, nothing would grow. Maintaining the canals is a constant challenge, and everyone has a role, though some are better at it than others. Suddenly, the ox shudders, annoyed by a buzzing fly. You seize the moment and give a firm tug on the reins, steering him toward the next row. The soil parts obediently beneath the plow, turning in smooth, dark waves. Your son runs ahead, scattering seeds carefully in the fresh furrows. You admire his focus, hoping he'll carry on this work someday. Farming isn't glamorous, but it's honest, and it feeds the village. You pause briefly to wipe your brow, tasting the salt on your lips. A group of women approaches, carrying water and small bundles of herbs. They smile and wave, shouting greetings that echo softly across the fields. The communal spirit is strong here. Everyone shares the burden and the hope. As the afternoon sun beats down, you and your ox push through the last furrows. The work is tiring, but the promise of new life in the soil makes it worthwhile. You look over the freshly turned earth and feel a quiet pride. Farming in ancient Mesopotamia is never easy, filled with unpredictability and hard labor. But with each furrow, each seed planted, you're part of a story as old as civilization itself, one of survival, faith, and stubborn determination. The sun has climbed past its zenith, and you find yourself crouched beside a narrow trench filled with dark, wet soil. Your hands are raw, but the work demands it. Carefully, you scatter barley seeds into the earth's soft folds, your fingers leaving little impressions, tiny cradles for future grain. You whisper a soft prayer to Enlil, the god of wind and storms, hoping for gentle rains and protection from hail. The gods may be invisible, but their presence feels tangible in moments like this, when the sun scorches your neck and the sky remains cloudless. Around you, the village hums quietly. Someone's laughing nearby, probably at a joke you missed. Your neighbor sings off-key while spreading seed, but no one seems to mind. The melody floats over the fields, mingling with the scent of barley and fresh earth. As you work, you keep an eye out for trouble. Pests like locusts, grasshoppers, and beetles are constant threats. Last year's invasion devastated half the harvest, and the memory still stings. You swear you'll be the first to spot them this season. Historians still argue whether early Mesopotamian farmers used natural pesticides or relied mostly on rituals and prayers to protect their crops. Some evidence suggests they sprinkled ash or crushed minerals to deter insects, while others believe it was mostly superstition. Nearby, a small group of children chase each other between the irrigation canals, laughing and splashing in the cool water. Their carefree energy contrasts sharply with the solemnity of your labor, reminding you of the cycle of life and work. Your son hands you a flask of watered-down beer, a welcome relief from the dry heat. You take a long drink, savoring the mild sweetness and the slight buzz that follows. Beer is a staple here. Not just a treat, it's food, medicine, and sometimes a ritual offering. Between rows, you pause to pull stubborn weeds and inspect young shoots. Some barley stalks already show promise, their tiny heads swaying gently in the breeze. You feel a flicker of hope. Suddenly, a shadow passes overhead, a falcon circling high against the blue sky. Birds of prey are both friend and foe. They hunt rodents but can also disturb nests. You watch as it swoops, disappearing behind a clump of reeds. Nearby, a group of women set out clay traps along the edges of the fields to catch pests. Their work is meticulous, involving careful placement and monitoring. You nod in appreciation. Without their efforts, the harvest would suffer greatly. Your hands ache, but you keep moving, planting seed after seed, row after row. Time slips away in the quiet repetition, broken only by the occasional caw of a crow or the rustle of dry leaves. You think about last month's festival in the temple. How the priests prayed for a bountiful harvest and distributed barley cakes to the poor. The rituals give the village a sense of hope and community, binding you all together in faith and toil. As the sun begins to dip, casting long shadows, you finish the last furrow. Your back aches, your throat is dry, but you feel a quiet satisfaction. Today, you've done your part. Later, by the hearth, your wife will prepare lentils simmered with onions, and the family will gather to share stories and laughter. For now, you take a moment to rest, watching the sun set over the riverbanks, knowing that tomorrow brings new work, new prayers, and new hope. The midday heat presses down like a heavy, invisible blanket, wrapping around you with a stubborn insistence. You find yourself grateful for the small fig tree that leans just enough to cast a dappled shade over a patch of cracked earth. Dropping your tools, you sink beneath its branches, the rough bark digging into your back, but offering welcome relief from the sun's unrelenting gaze. You pull out the bread wrapped in linen, the remnants of yesterday's bake. It's hard and dry, perfect for dunking in the watered beer your wife insisted you bring. The beer tastes faintly of barley and honey. A murky comfort in this harsh heat. You take a slow sip, savoring the coolness as beads of sweat roll down your temples. Around you, the fields shimmer under the midday blaze. Dust rises in lazy swirls, caught by a gentle breeze that smells faintly of reed smoke and distant cooking fires. Somewhere, a child's laughter echoes, mingling with the soft bleating of goats seeking shade. As you lean back, you close your eyes and let your mind drift. The clatter of tools and low voices fades into a gentle hum. The worn leather of your sandals presses against the hot earth, a constant reminder of the miles you've walked this morning. You reach into your satchel and pull out a small clay flask. Its surface worn smooth by years of handling. You tip it to your lips, letting the faint bitterness of beer wash over your tongue. It's more a ritual than a thirst quencher. A shared comfort among farmers enduring the same relentless cycle. Historians still argue whether Mesopotamian farmers took midday breaks out of necessity or tradition. Some say it was a practical response to the scorching sun. Others believe it was intertwined with rituals honoring the gods of earth and fertility. Your thoughts wander to the festival of the barley goddess, where offerings of freshly baked cakes and watered beer were made to ensure a good harvest. The memory brings a small smile to your lips. Nearby, your son rests beneath a reed mat, his face flushed from the heat but peaceful. You watch him quietly, aware that soon he will shoulder more of these burdens himself. A stray goat ambles by, nosing at the dry grass. You shoo it away gently, amused by its persistence. The animals, much like the villagers, seem to have a stubborn will of their own. You listen to the distant murmur of canal waters, the lifeblood of your fields. Their steady flow is a constant reassurance, a promise that the rivers continue their eternal dance. As the minutes pass, you feel the slow ebb of exhaustion mingled with contentment. This pause, brief and simple, is a sacred ritual in itself, an acknowledgement of effort, endurance, and the quiet rhythms of rural life. With a final sip from your flask, you rise, brushing dust from your knees. The sun has shifted, the day is far from over. There are still fields to tend, pests to chase away, and the ever-present hope that your labor will yield fruit. You pick up your tools and head back into the sun, ready to face the afternoon with steady hands and a patient heart. The afternoon sun has climbed high and mercilessly, beating down on the land like an unrelenting overseer. You crouch low among the barley stalks, eyes sharp as you scan every leaf, every stem, for signs of trouble. Those tiny invaders, locusts, beetles, grasshoppers, are the sworn enemies of your harvest. They swarm with reckless enthusiasm, as if the barley patch were their private banquet. You brush away a cluster of shiny black beetles munching eagerly on a young leaf. Their relentless nibbling leaves tiny holes that, if left unchecked, will stunt the growth of the plant and threaten the season's yield. The sight stings as much as the bites on your hands. You mutter a farmer's curse under your breath, a mix of frustration and hope, wishing those insects could understand the sweat and toil behind each planted seed. Your fingers reach for a nearby pile of cooking ash, cooled to a dull gray. This humble powder, left over from the morning's fire, becomes a makeshift shield. You sprinkle it carefully around the base of your plants, creating a gritty barrier that irritates the insects and deters them from feasting further. It's an ancient trick, passed down through countless seasons, simple, practical, effective enough to make a difference. You recall your neighbor's peculiar pest control method, crushing eggshells mixed with goat dung and applying it around the crops. The smell alone was enough to keep some pests away. But the idea of adding more odor to an already earthy day makes you wrinkle your nose. Still, desperate times call for desperate measures. Historians still argue about the true balance between practical pest control and superstition in Mesopotamian agriculture. Some evidence points to the use of mineral ash and crushed plants to protect crops. While at the same time, farmers and priests performed prayers and offerings hoping to appease the gods and banish plagues of insects. Perhaps it was this blend of science and faith, a pragmatic ritualism, that sustained them through harsh seasons. As you continue your inspection, a faint breeze carries the scent of crushed herbs. Nearby, a group of women scatter bundles of aromatic plants, mint, thyme, and wild fennel, around the fields. Their belief that these scents repel pests is a comforting tradition, and it seems to help. If only a little, you give a small nod of approval. Anything that protects your crop is worth trying. Suddenly, chaos erupts as a rowdy goat breaks free from its tether and barrels through the barley patch. Trampling young shoots with gleeful abandon, you leap up, shouting and waving your arms. But the stubborn beast is already racing across the field, leaving a path of destruction behind. Your son gives chase, laughter ringing through the air. But the goat is having none of it. You sigh, dusting dirt from your knees and muttering that this goat is more trouble than any beetle. The villagers have long accepted their animals' mischief as part of daily life, though it doesn't make the damage any easier to bear. Returning to your task, you kneel once more, gently removing the worst of the beetle damage. The barley leaves are speckled with tiny holes. But the stalks are resilient. You hope the plants will recover enough to produce a decent yield. Your hands, streaked with dirt and sweat, feel the deep calluses formed by years of labor. Every ridge and crease tells a story of toil, resilience, and an unbreakable bond with this land. In the distance, the temple bells toll softly, signaling the approach of evening and the village's gradual retreat from the fields. Farmers will soon return home, their work for the day at least paused. But you know that the fight against pests and the whims of nature is never fully over. Each day demands vigilance. You pause to drink from your waterskin. The cool liquid refreshes your parched throat, its faint metallic taste a reminder of the river water's journey through soil and stone. Looking up, you see the skies soften into hues of pink and gold as the sun begins its slow descent. The heat eases, and the shadows lengthen, stretching like tired limbs across the patchwork fields. Taking a deep breath, you survey the barley patch once more. Despite the sun, the pests, and the goat's wild rampage, life persists here, resilient, stubborn, and full of quiet hope. You rise, muscles aching but spirit steady, ready to return to the village and share the day's stories around the hearth. Tomorrow promises new challenges, but for now, you savor the fleeting peace of a day's work well done. The sun is beginning to settle as you make your way toward the canal for the evening wash. What started as a simple necessity quickly turns into a social event. The canal bank is a gathering place. A spot where the day's labor unravels into stories, laughter, and sometimes, the unavoidable gossip that keeps the village connected. Like an ancient group chat but with more mud and fewer emojis. You dip your hands into the cool water. The sensation a refreshing balm against the day's heat and dust. The water carries a faint scent of reeds and earth. And as it trickles between your fingers, you can feel the tension from your aching muscles begin to loosen. Nearby, other villagers scrub their hands, feet, and faces, the murmur of conversation rising like a gentle current. Ishtar Bani, the village's ever-chatty chicken keeper, spots you and waves enthusiastically. Her latest scandal involves a stolen chicken and a pair of mysteriously missing sandals. Both apparently connected in ways that defy logic but perfectly fuel the evening's amusement. As you settle on a flat stone by the bank, you listen as voices weave together, complaints about the ox's stubbornness, jokes about last week's botched feast, and plans for the upcoming festival. The communal warmth contrasts with the cool water, a reminder that no matter how hard the day's work, the village is a web of intertwined lives. Historians still argue whether these washing gatherings were primarily social or had deeper ritual significance. Some suggest the act of cleansing was not just physical but spiritual. A way to wash away the toil and invite blessings for the coming days. You glance down the canal, noticing how the water reflects the fiery hues of sunset. Dragonflies skim the surface, darting between reeds and casting fleeting shadows. The gentle ripple of water soothes your senses, blending with distant laughter and the call of a night bird. Your son splashes nearby, his face lit with joy. A stark contrast to the serious work that dominates most days. Watching him, you feel a tender hope that he will grow up with memories that balance hardship and happiness. Suddenly, a sudden splash nearby disrupts the calm. A pig, known for wandering freely, tumbles into the water with a loud snort, sending ripples across the canal. The startled animals scatter, and laughter erupts from the villagers. You smile, thinking that in this messy, unpredictable life, it's these small moments, the shared stories, the unexpected humor, that keep the spirit alive. You finish your wash, feeling lighter, both in body and mind. The canal has offered more than water tonight, it has been a place of connection, relief, and quiet joy. As twilight deepens, you rise, ready to return home to family, food, and the evening's rituals. The day's sweat and strain are fading, replaced by the gentle embrace of community and the promise of rest. As dusk settles gently over your village, you light a small clay lamp near the hearth. Its flickering flame casts soft shadows that dance across the rough mud brick walls of your home, filling the space with a warm, amber glow. The light pushes back the encroaching darkness, offering comfort after the long, dusty day. You feel the weariness settle deep into your bones, the aches and pains from the day's toil making themselves known. Yet, these evening rituals bring a familiar sense of peace, a steady anchor in the ebb and flow of daily life. Before sitting down to eat, you carefully prepare a small offering for the household gods. A few crumbs of barley bread, a splash of watered-down beer, simple, humble tokens meant to honor the divine. It's not much, but enough to express your gratitude and ask for protection over your family and fields. Your wife arranges the offerings with care on a simple clay plate, placing it near the tiny altar where small figurines of Utu, the sun god, and Inanna, goddess of love and war, watch silently. You bow your head and whisper a quiet prayer. The words are simple, but steeped in tradition and hope. Scholars still debate whether these private household offerings evolved directly from grand temple ceremonies or if they arose independently within the home. Regardless, these acts remain central to family life, a daily connection between the human and divine. Your meal is modest: lentils simmered with onions, roasted leeks charred at the edges, and flat bread that's still warm from yesterday's baking. You chew slowly, savoring each bite. Though plain, it tastes like hard work and survival, both precious commodities. Outside, the village quiets down. The sounds of children's laughter and animal calls fade into the gentle chorus of crickets and distant bleating goats. Your pet goat circles your feet, sniffing and nudging, seeking scraps and affection. You chuckle softly and gently push him away before he starts nibbling on the woven mat. The children gather close, faces aglow with the lamp's flicker. Stories are shared, some true, some exaggerated, punctuated by bursts of laughter and sighs. These moments bind your family and community together, weaving threads of belonging and resilience. After the meal, you tend the hearth and prepare for your evening bath. Water from the nearby canal, warmed by the sun throughout the day, waits in clay jars. The ritual is simple but vital, washing away sweat and dirt. And with it, the weight of the day. Stepping into the cool water, you feel the refreshment seep into your skin and muscles. The act cleanses both body and spirit, a moment of renewal amid the relentless demands of farming life. You grumble half-jokingly about your stubborn ox, the endless source of your complaints, but even that is part of the rhythm you've grown accustomed to. These small routines, prayers, meals, offerings, baths, are the stitches holding your days together. Outside, stars begin to emerge, ancient witnesses to countless seasons of planting, harvest, and hope. You look up at familiar constellations, wondering if the gods watch from above or if they are merely stories shaped by human longing. The evening deepens. You settle into rest, your thoughts drifting softly between the labors of the day and the quiet promise of tomorrow. The quiet murmur of your family gathering around the evening meal lingers in the background as you settle into the gentle rhythm of night. The day's work has given way to warmth and conversation, filling the small room with a cozy intimacy that contrasts sharply with the relentless sun outside. Your wife carefully passes around bowls filled with simple fare, lentils stewed with onions, a little oil for flavor, and a handful of roasted leeks, their edges crisp and smoky. The flatbread, though stale in places, still serves as both utensil and sustenance. You tear off a piece, dipping it into the stew and savoring the hearty, familiar taste. The children chatter excitedly, swapping stories of the day's adventures, their eyes bright with youthful energy and innocence. Nearby, your pet goat wanders freely, weaving between legs and nudging for scraps with insistent bleats. The children giggle as it playfully licks their feet or tries to steal a morsel from the plate. You shake your head, smiling at the creature's antics. It may be a nuisance, but it's part of your household, a living companion in the long, hard days. As the meal winds down, Conversations shift from daily tasks to plans and hopes. The upcoming festival looms, a chance for the village to come together in celebration and prayer. Offering thanks for the harvest and asking for continued blessings. Your wife mentions the need to prepare barley cakes. And your eldest son offers to help collect reeds for decorations. The children's laughter softens as sleepiness creeps in. Their eyelids drooping, faces flushed from the day's heat and exertion. You gently usher them toward the sleeping mats spread out in the corner, helping tuck them in with hand-woven blankets. The youngest clings briefly before drifting off, the sound of soft breathing filling the room. Outside, the night air cools, carrying with it the subtle scent of date palms and distant river reeds. The village quiets further, save for the occasional bark of a dog or the low grunt of a nocturnal animal. You take a moment to step outside, gazing up at the stars scattered across the ink-black sky. Their cold light reminds you of stories told by elders, of gods and heroes, of omens and destiny. You breathe in the stillness, the faint rustle of leaves and the gentle ripple of canal waters, a lullaby to weary bodies. The world feels vast yet comforting in its constancy. Returning indoors, you settle near the hearth, ready to prepare for the evening's bath. The canal water, warmed by the sun and gathered in clay jars, awaits. It will wash away the dust and sweat, bringing a brief respite from the day's toil. As you undress, the routine so familiar it borders on ritual. You think of the cycles that govern your life, the sowing, the tending, the reaping, and the resting, each day different, yet connected in an unbroken chain. The water's cool touch refreshes, soothing muscles and calming the mind. You linger a moment longer, savoring the simple luxury before drying off and donning fresh linen wraps. The night beckons rest, but before sleep claims you, your thoughts turn to tomorrow, another day of labor, hope, and the slow unfolding of life in this ancient land. You step cautiously into the cool, shallow water of the canal, feeling the smooth riverbed stones press softly beneath your bare feet. The surface ripples gently as you lower yourself in, the water clear enough to see small fish darting away in startled bursts. The sensation is a welcome relief from the day's heat and sweat. A momentary oasis amid the relentless toil. As you splash water over your face, arms, and chest, the earthy scent of mud and reeds rises with the mist hovering above the canal. The fragrance is faint but grounding, a constant reminder of the river's life-giving presence. Your hands break the water's surface repeatedly, sending concentric ripples outward, reflecting the deepening twilight sky painted in shades of purple and orange. The village around you hums quietly with evening sounds. Distant voices drift softly from nearby homes, punctuated by the clatter of pottery and the occasional bark of a dog guarding its territory. There is comfort in these familiar noises, but also a subtle tension, an unspoken respect for the mysteries that night brings. You recall stories told by elders of spirits that roam the darkness. Invisible yet ever present, some believe these entities protect the village, while others warn of malevolent forces lurking in shadows. Your own thoughts drift to the protective charms your wife braided from reeds, tucked carefully inside your tunic to ward off harm. Historians still debate how deeply rooted these beliefs were in everyday Mesopotamian life. Some ancient texts hint at prayers and rituals designed specifically to guard against night spirits and evil eyes, suggesting a blend of faith and caution that shaped daily routines. Emerging from the water, you shake your hair, sending droplets flying like tiny diamonds caught in fading sunlight. You catch your reflection in the canal's dark surface, a weathered face marked by sun and sweat, eyes softened by fatigue but sparkling with quiet determination. You think of the stubborn ox in the fields, the mischievous goat at your feet, and the crops slowly reaching for the sky. All are part of the intricate web of this life, harsh yet beautiful. Nearby, a lone lantern flickers as a neighbor makes their way home along the earthen path. The village houses cluster tightly, casting warm pools of light amid deep shadows. Each hearth within holds its own stories of laughter and loss, hope and hardship, woven together like the reeds along the canal banks. You feel the weight of connection settle over you, binding you to this small community where shared struggles forge unbreakable ties. You wrap the linen cloth your wife handed you tightly around your shoulders, the fabric cool and comforting against your skin. The night air grows cooler, brushing softly against your face and stirring the scent of date palms and drying reeds. Above, stars begin to emerge, pinpricks of ancient light scattered across the sky. Their patterns are familiar: the great bear, the lion, the scorpion, constellations your grandfather once traced with a trembling finger as he told stories of gods, heroes, and fate. You pause to look upward, feeling both small and part of something vast beyond imagining. The stars seem to watch silently, timeless witnesses to centuries of toil, joy, and quiet resilience. As you step back onto the soft earth, the path home feels reassuringly familiar beneath your feet. The glow of the village lanterns beckons, a beacon of warmth and rest. You inhale deeply, the cool night air filling your lungs with calm. Your thoughts settle into the steady rhythm of the seasons, the planting and growing, the harvest and the waiting. Life in Mesopotamia is a constant balance between effort and uncertainty, faith and pragmatism. Each day ends with hope for the next. You enter your home and sit beside the hearth, feeling the residual warmth of the fading fire. The family is gathered nearby, voices low and soothing, weaving the fabric of home and belonging. The day's dust may cling to your skin, but inside you carry a quiet peace, nourished by tradition, family, and the land itself. You close your eyes, letting the sounds of the night, crickets chirping, the distant flow of water, the soft breathing of loved ones, lull you toward rest. Tomorrow is another day, full of work and hope. But for now, the calm of night envelops you like a gentle embrace. The night sky above your village stretches wide and unchanging, a vast canvas peppered with stars that have guided and haunted countless generations before you. You lie back on the woven mat outside your home, the coarse fibers pressing gently into your skin, and gaze upward, tracing the constellations etched across the black velvet dome. The stars shimmer coldly, yet their steady glow offers a strange kind of comfort, a timeless presence in a world where so much changes. You recall the stories told by the elders about the heavens, how the movements of the stars and planets were believed to reflect the will of the gods. The god Anu, ruler of the skies, was said to watch from the highest heaven, his gaze encompassing all beneath. The goddess Ishtar, associated with Venus, was said to shine brightly in the evening and morning skies, heralding love and war. Each star held meaning, a message or a warning. Among the villagers, night sky observations were not merely for wonder but a form of divination. Priests and wise men would interpret the heavens to predict weather, success of crops, or the fate of individuals. You remember watching a priest with his reed staff marking positions on a clay tablet, painstakingly charting celestial bodies in shapes and signs only partially understood. Historians still argue how much these beliefs influenced daily life for common farmers. Were the stars merely a distant backdrop or an active force shaping decisions? Whether the village farmers looked up for guidance or practical knowledge, the sky's silent story was undeniably woven into the rhythm of existence. Tonight, you feel the cool breeze brush over your face, carrying faint whispers of reeds and distant fires. The night air smells fresh, a balm after the day's heat. You close your eyes briefly, allowing the serene darkness to soothe your tired muscles and mind. Your thoughts drift to dreams and superstitions held by many. Some say that spirits roam under the stars, protective and sometimes vengeful. The night was believed to be a time when boundaries between worlds thinned, and the living needed charms and prayers to stay safe. You finger the small amulet tied around your neck, a simple carved stone given by your mother. It is said to ward off evil spirits and bring peaceful sleep. You clutch it lightly, a quiet talisman against the unknown. In the distance, a dog barks once, breaking the stillness. Nearby, your family's gentle breathing mixes with the sounds of crickets and the lapping of canal waters. This symphony of night life feels like a soft embrace, wrapping around the village like a protective cloak. You let your gaze drift back to the stars, feeling both humbled and connected. The universe above is vast, cold, and unknowable, yet it has watched over your people through storms, famines, and harvests. You take comfort in that continuity. The night deepens, the stars wheel slowly overhead, eternal and indifferent, while you lie beneath them, wrapped in linen and hope. Soon, sleep will take you, carrying you into the quiet realm where dreams mingle with the whispers of ancient gods. The village has finally fallen into a deep, quiet stillness as you lie awake on your woven mat. The heat of the day has faded, replaced by a cool night breeze that gently rustles the reeds and stirs the simple curtains hanging over the doorway. Around you, the chorus of crickets hums steadily, accompanied by the occasional distant hoot of an owl or the soft padding of a nocturnal animal moving through the fields. Your body is heavy from the day's work, your muscles ache, and your back reminds you in dull throbs that rest is essential. Yet, despite your exhaustion, sleep doesn't come easily tonight. Your ears twitch at every faint sound, the scuffle of something moving nearby, the whispered conversation of someone walking past the houses, the rustling of dry leaves caught in the wind. Each noise is magnified in the quiet, and your heart quickens, eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering in from the moon. You wonder what prowls outside. Is it a stray goat wandering too close? A wild pig rooting near the canal? Or perhaps something less tangible? Those night spirits your grandmother warned you about when you were a child. She told stories of restless souls that wandered after dark, seeking peace or mischief, and of benevolent protectors who watched over the village. The line between the natural and supernatural feels thin here. especially under the cloak of night. In times like this, you think of the village's night watchmen. Long ago, and even still now, certain men take turns patrolling the streets armed with torches and simple weapons. Their duty is to guard the community from thieves, wild animals, and possibly wandering spirits. The flickering torchlight bobbing in the shadows is a comforting presence, a reminder that while the night holds unknowns, the village stands together, vigilant and strong. Historians still debate the nature and role of these patrols in ancient Mesopotamian life. Were they practical measures primarily aimed at protecting property and livestock? Or did they serve a deeper spiritual function, warding off malevolent forces and ensuring the safety of souls as much as bodies? The evidence is scarce and often ambiguous, leaving room for speculation and belief. As you lie in the quiet, you let your imagination wander to those who walk the night with watchful eyes. You picture them weaving through the narrow alleys, the glow of their lanterns casting long shadows on mud-brick walls, their voices low and cautious, exchanging news or warnings. Their presence weaves into the fabric of the village's safety, both physical and spiritual. Your gaze drifts to the small household altar, where figurines of Utu, Inanna, and other deities sit silently. Even in darkness, you feel their watchful eyes upon you, a protective shield against unseen dangers. The thought is soothing, a balm for your restless mind. Outside, the moon arcs high across the sky, bathing the village in silvery light. The rooftops, trees, and fields shimmer softly, and shadows twist and dance in shapes that seem both familiar and strange. Sometimes, your mind fills in shapes, an animal here, a lurking figure there, but you remind yourself it's just the play of light and dark. You pull your linen wrap tighter around your shoulders, seeking comfort and warmth. The night air carries the faint scent of drying reeds and distant fires. It is the smell of home, familiar and grounding. In this stillness, you feel a deep connection with the ancestors who once lay under these same stars. Their fears, their hopes, their rituals, and their stories echo through time, carried in the cool night wind. You imagine them whispering through the rustling leaves, sharing wisdom and watching over you. Your thoughts slow as your breathing deepens. The village sounds fade into a gentle background hum, the soft murmur of water in the canal, the rustle of animals settling, the quiet breathing of your family nearby. Each sound is a thread in the tapestry of night, weaving peace and safety. Slowly, your eyelids grow heavy. The anxieties of the day and night dissolve as you drift towards sleep, cradled by the gentle embrace of darkness and the promise of dreams. The world beyond your walls fades, leaving only calm and quiet. Tonight, as in countless nights before, you surrender to rest, knowing the dawn will bring new challenges and new hopes. The night settles quietly over your village, wrapping the humble homes and narrow lanes in a thick blanket of stillness and shadow. You lie stretched out on your woven mat, the coarse fibers pressing gently into your skin, as the gentle chorus of nocturnal creatures rises all around you. The rhythmic chirping of crickets, the distant call of an owl, and the soft rustle of reeds swaying in the evening breeze combine into a natural lullaby, cradling you between wakefulness and the quiet edges of sleep. In your mind, a lullaby from your childhood surfaces, your mother's soft, comforting voice singing an ancient song. The words are simple, filled with wishes for protection, for safe passage through the darkness, and for peaceful dreams. These songs are not merely melodies but ancient charms, passed from one generation to the next like precious heirlooms. They are believed to guard the sleeper against the sleep demons and restless spirits said to roam the borders of the dream world. Clutched close to your chest rests a small amulet, carved from smooth stone and worn by years of touch. Your grandmother gave it to you long ago, a tangible symbol of protection and hope. Though simple and unassuming, the amulet carries great meaning, both superstition and love. Villagers swear it keeps away evil spirits, ensuring safe, restful sleep and good fortune when dawn breaks anew. Sleep is both a necessity and a mystery in your life. Your body aches for rest, yet your mind roams free, weaving images born of daily toil, ancient beliefs, and quiet fears. When dreams come, they blur the line between sacred vision and mundane worry. Sometimes you dream of bountiful harvests threatened by fierce storms. Other times, of the stubborn ox plowing endless, unyielding furrows under an unforgiving sun. Ancient tablets discovered by scholars reveal that Mesopotamian priests treated dreams with utmost seriousness. They believed dreams were messages from the gods, warnings, blessings, or guidance for the days ahead, though historians still debate whether dreams were truly divine prophecy or reflections of everyday anxieties. There is no doubt that the people of your land held their dreams in reverence. Priests acted as interpreters, using dreams to advise kings and commoners alike, blending faith and insight to navigate the uncertain future. Your breath slows and deepens as you sink into the warm embrace of sleep. Around you, the room dims further, except for the soft crackle of embers in the hearth and the gentle, steady breathing of your sleeping children nearby. Their faces glow faintly in the flickering firelight, peaceful and untroubled. Outside, the moon hangs high and bright, casting silver beams through the open doorway and painting shifting patterns on the mud-brick walls. It watches over your rest like a silent guardian. Your thoughts soften, worries and fatigue dissolving into the shadows. Concerns about the weather, pests, and the ever-stubborn ox slip away, replaced by a serene calm. You feel a profound connection to your ancestors who once slept beneath these same stars, to the earth that cradles your feet, and to the eternal cycles of seasons and constellations that govern your existence. Between waking and dreaming, past and present, you find yourself cradled by the steady rhythms of life. The lullaby in your heart carries you deeper into rest, a gentle song that bridges time and space, binding you to those who came before and those yet to come. You surrender completely to the night, the quiet breath of the earth, the watchful eyes of the gods, and the tender embrace of sleep. Tonight, as every night, you are safe, held within the ancient dance of light and shadow until dawn's first light calls you back to the waking world, ready to rise and begin anew. As the night deepens and your breathing slows, the world around you softens into a quiet hum. The fields you've tended, the oxen you've guided, and the prayers you've whispered all fade gently into the stillness of night. You are cradled by the endless cycle of earth and sky, bound to a rhythm as old as time itself. The stars above twinkle softly, ancient witnesses to the countless days and nights that have shaped this land and its people. Their steady light offers a quiet comfort, a reminder that life moves in steady, enduring pulses, even when the world feels uncertain and harsh. Rest now, knowing that you belong to this vast, beautiful story, the land beneath you, the river that nourishes it, and the family beside you are part of a timeless dance of survival. Faith and hope. Tomorrow will come with its challenges. But tonight, you are wrapped in peace. Let your thoughts drift like the gentle breeze through the reeds. Soft and slow. Breathe deeply, letting every worry fall away as sleep enfolds you in its tender embrace. The dreams that come will carry whispers of the past and promises of the future, guiding you safely through the night. And when dawn breaks again, you will rise, steady and strong, to meet the day, ready to continue the ancient journey of life between two rivers. Good night, and sweet dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.